Welcome back to another episode of Live Life by Design. I am your host, Jeff Mendez. Today we have Ryan Lee in La Casa in the house.
Let's go.
Love the hat.
Yeah, man, I love the hat too. I love that.
Love the repping.
Yeah.
How are things? We started asking ourselves, hey, how is life? So let's start there. How is life?
Man,
What's going on?
Life is awesome. Life is it is what it is. You know, life is crazy. It's the ups and the downs, but life right now is going pretty phenomenal. Just accomplished a lifelong goal, and it felt like a major milestone in my life to be able to accomplish that. And then watching my kids grow up, you know it, man. They go from teenagers to young adults, and so it's just fun riding the ride with them.
And I'm assuming the milestone is what I have.
Yeah, you got
right
that
here.
milestone, the little green book right there.
So here we go. The little green book. Retire in 10 years or less. Unlock your passive income machine. You guys have never heard about that on this show. And secure tax-free income for life. You've never heard about tax-free income on this show either. I'm sure this is new to everybody. So you co-wrote this, it sounds like, right, with Robert G. Allen. So tell us about that journey. How was it getting this book out into the world and actually collaborating with another author, and then having a forward by an amazing entrepreneur and mentor to many, especially in the game of cash flow, Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah, you know what? It was a phenomenal collaboration. My journey into real estate, it started with both of those two individuals, and so for me to be able to go back and acknowledge them, honor them, co-author with them on this book was a dream come true. My very first journey into real estate was probably like a lot of people. You know, I realized that traditional finance really just wasn't giving me the control that I wanted. I'm kind of a control guy. And I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he talked all about cash flow. And so
Was your mind blown the first time you read it?
Oh my gosh! First, like I had to go through like the stages, right? I mean, I was mad because I felt like everything that
It was a lie.
it was like, yeah, man, everything that I thought I knew about money was wrong, and it resonated with me because I got into real estate right after '08 when everything for me in the market dropped. And so I read his book and I got into real estate. I bought 3 properties, and after buying 3 properties, I realized, man, it's a whole different game, right? It's one thing to talk about cash flow, but if you're using leverage, if you're getting in and taking control of your money, you got to raise your financial IQ. And so that just started me down a rabbit hole, I would say. And I came across Robert Allen. His book, Creating Wealth, kind of gave me a structure. You know, in his book, he talked about buying 2 single-family homes a year. And so that was the game I played. That was all I did. I bought 17 homes in about 4 years and learned a ton of lessons doing that. And then, over time, I walked away from a corporate job, and I had people in the corporate job saying, "You're crazy," but I had a few people saying, "How did you do it?" And that's kind of what evolved me into helping other people do what I had done. And then 4 years ago, we had a big event, right? A big event. It was right during COVID, and we had it up at the Montage, and we had a couple hundred people there, and I invited Bob Allen to come, and I wanted to pay some homage and tribute to him. I'd never met him, but his book changed my life, and so we brought him on stage and said, "Hey, thank you." We gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you for inspiring me, and you've inspired all of these people vicariously. And ever since then, we've just had kind of a collaborative relationship, and decided to write the book together.
That's awesome. So let's go back a little bit. So when you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, what were maybe the 2 main takeaways or ahas where you're like, I've been lied to my whole life? What
Yeah,
were the
man.
2?
Number 1 for me was savers or losers. I was born in a phenomenally responsible family. And from a very early age, man, I learned the discipline of saving. And at first I actually kind of took offense by that statement, that savers are losers, until I looked a level below the statements. And I started doing the math on like 401ks, IRAs, market-based accounts, and I realized there was no possible way I could work enough, save enough, achieve enough to be able to retire early, which was my goal. And once I understood the math behind that statement, I realized savers are losers, not in the sense that you're doing something inherently wrong, but you're losing the game of money. And at the time for me, not only was I losing the game of money, if we translate money into time, money into life, I was also making some pretty significant trade-offs at the time in my life to earn more money so I could save more money. And so I realized savers are losers in every aspect of the word if you're putting your money in a broken system. So that was number 1. And then number 2, and this is where real estate gets insanely powerful, is debt is money. And I think very few people understand that single statement. When he said debt is money, most people use debt as money, but they use it as consumers. But smart guys like you, right? You use debt all the time to buy assets that generate income that produce massive tax advantages. And so learning, that was the thing about Kiyosaki, right? He gave you these bold paradigm shifting statements, but unless you look below the surface and really understand all of the nuance behind it, most people who've read that book, I've talked to thousands of people over the years who've read it, but they're not doing anything different. Their life is the exact same. They're not any more empowered by money. So it's looking below the surface of what he said.
Yeah. So how do you bifurcate, what Dave Ramsey teaches, which is avoid debt like the plague, and then Robert Kiyosaki, who says get as much debt as possible. So maybe unpack that so we understand the difference of the debt that Ramsey's talking about and the debt that Kiyosaki's talking about.
So Jeff, you're a super smart guy. Every time I get around you, I'm like, man, this guy he's so smart. I feel like I learn things the dumb way, right? I learned it through life experience. And I remember when I went to college for the first time. It was right over here across the street, UVSC back in the day, right? And I showed up at college and they were giving out free T-shirts if you got a little Visa credit card, right? So I got my free T-shirt because it was like, now I add to my collection. I've got 2 T-shirts and now I get a free Visa T-shirt. So I got 3. I'm good now. But I got that credit card, right? And as a poor young college student, I remember getting that credit card and I bought a lunch one day, teriyaki chicken, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is way better than bologna sandwiches. And so every day after that, I went to Los Hermanos and bought taquitos, right? I mean, I ate $3,000 worth of taquitos before I knew it. And I'll never forget when the bill came, right? I was living life large. But I'm a college student. I have no money. And I remember when the bill came, it was like $3,000. I mean, today, not much. But man, back then, I'm like, dude, I'll never pay this off. And it took me probably 6 months to pay that off. And that's how most people use debt. They use it like consumers. They finance and mortgage a life that they can't afford today, and they trade their future, right, their labor, their production, their time to pay off what they consumed yesterday. That's how most people live. That's how our government lives. I mean, from the top down, we're taught that consumer is just the way you go. But savvy investors understand that very same statement. And this is what I'll say about the bifurcation of it. When I spent that extra $3,000 on the Visa card, I didn't have to pay taxes on it, right? I technically had $3,000 more of income that year, but at the end of the year, I didn't have to claim the $3,000 I spent on taquitos. But now in real estate, I can do cash out refis. I can use all kinds of tax strategies, and I can technically have more income. But because I'm using debt as income, I can pay 0 taxes on it. And I think that once I understood that, the tax advantages of real estate and debt as income, it just matters whether you're using it as a producer or as a consumer. That makes all the difference.
So I'm sure we have people listening right now, asking themselves or saying to themselves, or, maybe some of that holier than thou mentality is setting in where it's like, well, here's another guy or another couple guys that aren't willing to pay their quote unquote fair share. So maybe talk to us about the tax code and why you feel that what you're doing, I'll just insert the word patriotic.
Okay.
Or smart or savvy or
Let's
however
go
you
right
wanna...
to patriotic, man. I mean, I tell you what, and I don't know, I don't know how deep you want to get on this, but our country was founded on patriotism. And if our country was founded on patriotism, then we have to look at the root and the definition of that word. Patriotic is owning your life. It's owning your decisions. It's owning your outcomes. We live in a world today where we are the least patriotic country, even though we're told that we are free. We're not. I mean, if you would just want to look at the taxes that you pay up front and then the taxes that you pay through inflation, every hour of your day is taxed. Every dollar in your bank account is taxed, either directly or indirectly. And so, man, I get so fired up about that, because I believe in freedom. I believe in freedom, and our freedom is being stolen from us left and right. All right, I'll step off my soapbox now. So now let's come back to just being smart. The IRS.
So let me add to that. So I've heard a lot of orators or even politicians that say I'm patriotic. I pay my taxes. I'm like, good for you.
Yeah.
But also the tax code is written in a way.
That's it.
For you to look for those incentives that are in there so that you can help your communities, your municipalities, your states, And a lot of it's in real estate, because if you put money in real estate, you're creating vibrant, workspaces. You're creating vibrant living spaces for Americans, which is what a country needs.
100%.
So it's not that you're patriotic. It's that you're not utilizing the tax code that's written in such a way where if you're in the right activities that the communities are desiring, then you have those advantages.
I agree with that 100%. And I mean, there's so many different nuances to the tax game. And I do believe that we should be paying taxes.
I think all Americans, we believe in paying our fair share.
100%.
But obviously, when some of these taxes are utilized for different pet projects and, funds to be shipped to other places that we don't agree with what they're doing with our funds, it's not patriotic.
Significantly out of hand. And the hard part about this, and we don't have to go too far down this rabbit hole, but the hard part about that is we don't even vote anymore on the taxes that we pay. I mean, they've stopped taxing us directly. They're just taxing us indirectly by printing money.
And then you also mentioned another tax that starts with an I, inflation. That's the silent tax. So before you get into the savvy piece, talk to us about inflation and how that's a tax as well.
Man, here's the crazy part. So inside of the book, I have a free companion course, and I actually go through. I give them kind of a choose your own adventure where you can actually go as deep as you want to go with me, but I actually go down to the bottom of the rabbit hole when the Federal Reserve was formed. And the Federal Reserve was formed to extract wealth from the unknowing and pass it to the knowing, period. And in 1971, the rules of the game changed, right? And in 1971, we detached our money from a gold standard, from any standard to a physical asset. And from that point on, we've just been printing money like crazy. But here's the crazy part. In the last 25 years, there has been more money printing, more escalation of just the monetary supply than ever in the history of our country. And if you just look at the average amount of new money entering the economy, it's about 7% per year over 25 years. What that ultimately means, unless there's a 7% increase in production and goods and services, our real inflation rate is 7%. So that's the indirect tax. We're not voting on these massive spending bills, right? Congress is. We don't get to go and elect, people to say, yes, we're going to increase our taxes. These guys are actually voting on spending bills, and it's just increasing the monetary supply. So today, coming back to Robert Kiyosaki, Savers or Losers, the reason people are losing, you can't outpace inflation. But inflation can either make you wealthy or it can rob you blind. And it all comes to how you position your money. And that's coming back now to real estate. There's a lot of people in real estate that are getting wealthy and they don't even know why. The reason they're getting wealthy is because the government is printing more money. It's causing asset values, asset prices to go up. So if you understand that, I think the game of money today is easier than it's ever been before, but you have to go a level deeper, right? You have to go below the surface, because the only way you can win today is converting fake money, which is really what we have. It's just a piece of paper backed by some vague promise by the government, right? And you have to convert that fake money into a real asset, something that's always in demand.
Beautifully said. Fantastic. And then you were getting to the savvy part.
So the savvy part on taxes, I'll never forget this. Love him or hate him, Donald Trump, he says what he says, right? And I'll never forget when he was debating Hillary Clinton, right? And this is not this presidency previous to Biden. It was the one before. So this is 8 years ago now, 9 years ago now.
So you've got to ask yourself, why won't he release his tax returns? And I think there may be a couple of reasons. First, maybe he's not as rich as he says he is. Second, maybe he's not as charitable as he claims to be. Third, we don't know all of his business dealings, but we have been told through investigative reporting that he owes about $650 million to Wall Street and foreign banks. Or maybe he doesn't want the American people, all of you watching tonight, to know that he's paid nothing in federal taxes, because the only years that anybody's ever seen were a couple of years when he had to turn them over to state authorities when he was trying to get a casino license, and they showed he didn't pay any federal income tax. So if he's paid zero, that means zero for troops, zero for vets, zero for schools or health.
It's so good, man. So when he's debating Hillary Clinton, Clinton is just throwing rocks at him. You're a bad person, right? You don't pay your taxes, all these rocks at him. Donald Trump's just sitting back. He's got his smug Donald Trump face on, he's kind of smirky little smile. And she says, you don't pay your taxes. And he leans into the microphone, and you would think, oh my gosh, this guy's going to jail, right? And he says, that makes me smart. That makes me smart. Now, most people who just want to buy into politics and slogans and all this crazy stuff, they want to throw rocks and say Donald Trump should be paying his taxes. But if that makes me smart, then it comes back to the idea that the federal government, they wrote the tax code. I mean, basically, if you look at the tax code, the very first line in that tax code says everything you make is taxable. But then there's 3,000 pages after that statement. Those 3,000 pages are ways the federal government wants to partner with you to say, hey, if you do these things, you don't have to pay as much taxes, or you get tax breaks or tax incentives. And that's what makes people smart today, is going beyond the statement that everything you make is taxable and finding out what the federal government will allow you to do so you don't have to pay taxes on those activities and behaviors. And if money is time, right, because that's really what it is, it's you trading your time for money, then not paying taxes allows you to own and control more of your time. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
And it allows you to be a better patriot and a better servant leader and a better entrepreneur and a better business creator, et cetera. It's not about not paying taxes. It's about paying your fair share of taxes. And guess what, guys? Sales tax is still there.
Yeah.
Excise taxes are still there. Property taxes are still there. The death tax is still there. There's a lot of other taxes that we can point out to that we're still paying outside of the income tax threshold.
The one tax that you have control over is your income tax. There's things you can do with estate tax and things like that, but I can't do anything about property tax. That is what it is. I can fight it. I can try to, adjust it. Sales tax, that is what it is. But I can have some level of control over my income tax. And that's everything that Robert Kiyosaki was talking about, and that's what I talk about in that book.
Beautiful. Probably a tough question for you, and I'm sure it's like, how many kids you got?
3.
3 kids. Do you have a favorite chapter?
I do have a favorite chapter.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I've broke that book into 3 different sections. And section number 1 is all about the problem. And I don't know if Einstein said this or not, right? But Einstein is quoted as having said that if he had to save the world, right? If the world's falling apart and he had to save it, he would spend 55 minutes understanding the problem. Because once you understand the problem, the solution is almost always clear and easy. Most people don't understand the problem, which makes it hard for them to understand the solution. So in chapter 2, I give a very specific outline of the modern day financial problem. And that outline is this: how much money, like if you're using a 401k, an IRA, a mutual fund, any form of traditional finance, which most of your listeners, I'm sure, are hopefully not because they're investing with you. But if that's what you are doing, the question that you have to answer, and you even have to do this to a certain extent with real estate, how much money do I have to have saved or accumulated to give me the income that I want? Right? That seems like that should be something that you should know intuitively, like you would know the back of your hand. Like, what's the scoreboard? But no one answers that. No one wants to answer that. Financial advisors never want you to ask that question. Many of them don't even know how to answer that question. But if you don't know how much money you have to have in a 401k or an IRA or a mutual fund to give you the income that you want, how do you know if you're ever on track, if you're winning or losing? Most people just have this vague definition of success that when they're 65, they'll have enough money. So in chapter 2, I break down exactly that math and that problem. And once you see it, then we can get right back to what Robert Kiyosaki said: savers are losers. It's mathematically impossible for you to achieve financial freedom using their system, Wall Street.
That's awesome. And chapter 2 it is then.
There it is.
So what are some of the big, maybe give me 3 no-nos of investing?
Man, that's a great question. I think 3 no-nos. Number 1 no-no is, words matter, right? Words really matter. And I think today, again, we've been kind of hijacked a little bit, thinking that we're investing when we're actually not. The actual definition of investing is parting with capital with the expectation of safety of principal and an adequate return in the form of interest, dividends, or rent. So anyone listening to this right now, go back and think about the last time you parted with capital, which is parting with, you traded your time for that capital. Was your first expectation safety of principal and an adequate return in the form of interest, dividends, or rent? If that wasn't true, where you put your money, then you're not actually investing. You're speculating. Speculating is parting with capital with the hope of appreciation, a hope of a future resale value. That's how most people think they're investing when they're really not. They're speculating. So no, number 1 is don't confuse words. If you're speculating, just acknowledge it for what it is. But say that word out loud. That feels a little bit icky, right? I don't want to speculate on my future. I don't want to speculate, but that's what most people are doing today. So that's no number 1. No number 2 is deferring your taxes. right? Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't defer some taxes, but the biggest no-no is thinking that you're going to retire in a lower tax bracket in the future. When, as you think about your life, I want to spend more money. Inflation is going to make me spend more money. I want to be more free. I want to travel more. I want to live a better life, which means I don't want to carry this ball and chain around with me of what's my future taxation. I want to pay taxes once on my income and then eliminate it on my future passive income. And you can do that all day long with real estate. Nothing nefarious. It just requires a financial IQ. So that's no number 2 is don't defer your taxes. And then no number 3.
And then unpack that a little bit. Why would you not want to defer? What happens in the future with taxes?
Yeah, so the way I think about it, I don't know. Let's go back to the idea of patriotism. I believe, generally speaking, from the highest level, I think the government believes they're trying to do the best job they can for citizens. Now, whether that actually comes to fruition or not, there's a lot of nuance in that, right? But this would be like me coming to you saying, hey, Jeff, you're a smart guy, you're a hard worker, and I want to be your business partner. Now, in this partnership, I want you to do all the work. I want you to put in all the capital, and I want you to take all the risk, right? Those are the things I want out of this partnership. And at some point, when we get ready to sell our business that we're mutually, business owners on now, I'll come in at that point and I'll tell you how much of our business I actually own. That's what deferring your taxes is kind of like, right? We're doing all the work, we're taking all the risk, we're putting in all the money, but I don't know what my future taxes are going to be. Right now, if we look at the federal debts, if the government has any hope of ever trying to make a dent in that, taxes can't stay the same. They either have to default on promises or taxes have to go up. And so I just don't want to put that risk into the future when I don't have to. I could lower my taxes today effectively and strategically and eliminate them tomorrow. So that's really what I prefer to do on taxes.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that it's you avoid tax.
Yeah.
The issue is more than likely what's going to occur with those taxes. They're going to go up. So you're deferring it, assuming that you're not going to have to deal with it, but you are going to have to deal with it. Like at some point, you're going to have to face the music. And then I think a lot of people too, with the 401k programs that are out there, they think that as long as they're waiting to the age in which they can pull out their cash, they're going to be fine. But it's not tax free; it's fee free.
Yeah. That's the craziest part. Yeah, you have to pay a ransom to buy your money back before 59 and a half. And I think that would bring me to no number 3. And this is why I love what you do so much, Jeff. Like the saying on this hat is what most people miss. The idea, the concept of retirement. I talk to so many people who've deferred their life, their goals, their dreams, their ambitions, their bucket list to one day. One day they'll have enough money. One day they'll retire. One day everything will be good. And that 99% of the time doesn't ever come true. And so most people arrive at, their hopeful retirement age. They don't have enough money. Their financial advisor is nowhere to be found, right? They're now hoping that the government's going to raise Social Security or whatever it is because they can't get by. And so they've deferred their life because they didn't spend the time. They've hidden behind being busy, being a middle-class citizen. You've got to raise your financial IQ. And if you raise your financial IQ, money is a tool to build and live a life that matters, not one day, but right now. And so the way I look at financial freedom is it's not a destination like retirement. It's a lifestyle. And if you understand the game of cash flow, like I walked away from my corporate job with $6,000, $6,500 of cash flow. That's all I had. But it was enough to put food on the table. It was enough to keep the lights on. And it opened up a doorway of opportunity that was always there. I just couldn't see it until I had cash flow coming in. I'll never forget the day I told Rob, shove it. I quit, right? And I walked away and it was phenomenal. But over the years now, over the last decade, I've increased my expenses over and over and over again. But I've never done that until I've first increased my cash flow. And so financial freedom is a lifestyle. And once you understand how to convert fake dollars into real assets that generate cash flow, there's no limit to what you can do with your life. And that's the biggest no-no I think about retirement is most people are just delaying, hoping, and waiting for one day that'll never come.
Yeah, it's a really cool philosophy. It's not a destination. It's not an age.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle. It's a way in which you conduct your life. And then talk to us about lifestyle inflation, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned expenses kept going up, et cetera. And I think a lot of folks are tempted when they get that pay raise or they, when they get promoted, maybe they now join the C-suite, et cetera. They feel like they have to now get that nicer car, nicer home. They get that vacation property, et cetera. So how do you How do you view lifestyle inflation, and what's your philosophy on that?
I love that question. Love that question. Honestly, I think it really comes back to the idea of what is freedom, right? Freedom isn't free. Freedom requires stewardship. You have to be, you're free to make your choices, but you're not free to alter your consequences of those choices. And so once you understand that, then you have to really, freedom starts internally, right? If I want to be financially free, it starts right here. It starts with the discipline that I have in my personal finances, because freedom isn't something that I want to achieve tomorrow. I don't want to quit my job tomorrow. It has to be sustainable. Lifestyle is sustainable. And so I'll give you an example of this. Beth and I walked away from my corporate job, after 4 years of investing. We still lived frugally. In fact, we actually downsized our expenses after that. We moved out of our house and downsized.
Let me ask you this. Were you preparing to be able to make that move?
I
or
wasn't.
Was it more just
It was crazy, man.
spontaneous?
Like I put my head down when I read his books. I put my head down and I just started buying real estate. And for the first time, I started feeling progress, momentum. And I could see a finish line, but I'd never actually sat down to figure out, what do I need to walk away from this thing? Because I was making about $150,000 back in the day. But if you take out taxes, savings, just all the expenses that go with a job, like with me, $6,500 back in the day, I could pay my basic living expenses. I call it a strike number, right? I wasn't financially independent. I wasn't financially free. I couldn't travel to Europe, but I could put minimum amount on the table. And I'll never forget, I walked into my office, and this is after 4 years of investing. I was glad for my job because now I had an outlet for my money to go into real estate. But my boss, Rob, he would never show up, right? I managed my territory. I did a good job. And he'd show up when there was a problem. And this is still 4 years after 2008. Companies are still tightening their belts. And he was in my office one day, and I'm like, oh, crap, there's a problem, right? He invites me into my office. This is the power play. He sat in my chair at my desk and talked to me about the promotion they were going to give me. And the promotion required me to go back out on the road. Now, I'd made a commitment a few years before. Back in the day, I used to be the road warrior. I traveled 80% of the time. I lived in a different state than my family. It just was a mess. Wow. And so he's like, hey, Ryan, I've got a promotion for you. We just let go of this person. You're going to take on South Dakota. I already had the Denver Metroplex, all of Denver, and you're going to take on Wyoming, which meant I'm back on the road again. And I remember as he was talking, it was kind of like Charlie Brown for a minute, right? It was like the wah, 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 because in the back of my mind, I'd never done this before, but I was adding up my cash flow, right? I'm like, okay, those 2 houses, that could cover my food. Those 3 houses, that pays for my mortgage. Those 2 houses, that could pay for my car. Like I was adding this up over and over and over again. And when I just kept adding it. And finally, he's like, Ryan, are you ready to do this? And I looked up at him and it was like I came out of this daze and I said, I quit.
Freedom.
Dude, it was crazy because I didn't walk into the job that day with the intention of quitting. And as soon as I said it, I wanted to pull the words out and put them back in my mouth. But like a second after I'd said it, I felt like this weight had come off my shoulders. Now, I didn't walk into with the intention to quit, so I had to walk out to the parking lot after because he tried to talk me back into it. He's like, no, we'll pay you X more dollars. Like, you can't quit, right? What are you doing? You're crazy. And I walk out to the parking lot, I get on my cell phone, and I'm like, hey, Beth, this is when you're married to an amazing woman. I'm like, I just quit my job. And I waited for the yelling, the screaming. It didn't come. Here's what she said, Ryan, it's about damn time. And at that moment, I had no idea what I was quitting to. I had no idea what I wanted to do. But I had people asking me, how are you doing this? And so I took on my first little group of people, 6 people. I mentored them, guided them, showed them every step. And they would come back and ask me a question. I'm like, I don't know how to solve that. Let's figure it out. Right. And so I started helping people do what I now do professionally. And that's what started me on this path. And as we decided to start a business around this, we actually made a major lifestyle move. At the time, we lived on a nice house, lived on a golf course. I've never golfed. Sorry. I know you've invited me to golf a couple times. I've never actually golfed in my life, still to this day. So we moved off the golf course. We downsized our house. That's what brought us to Utah. We moved into Traverse Mountain back when there was nothing in Traverse Mountain. And we ended up going to a $1,200 a month mortgage. But for those 3 years, my expenses were so low. My cash flow was, giving us the freedom and the latitude. And we built this business. And we've made very, very intentional decisions over the years. The only time we've increased our expenses is when we have the cash flow behind us to justify it. And it's given me so much freedom to grow and scale this business because I'm never reliant on the business for income. Now, obviously, I take income from the business, but I've always had the freedom to say at any point in time, I could walk. I've got the cash flow standing behind me.
Such a powerful position to be in. Any regrets? from that day, that Charlie Brown moment?
Man, only that I didn't do it earlier. I mean, that was, but you don't know what you know. Like like I said, I don't know. Some people can learn it the smart way by reading books. I feel like everything I've learned in my life, I've had to like hit my head on the wall a few times before I learned the lesson.
Yeah, listen, I mean, a lot of viewers and listeners right now are probably in a position in their current jobs where like, man, I wish I could do what Ryan did. So I guess what advice would you give these folks that are trading their valuable time,
Yeah.
their human life value, their energy
Yeah.
for a job that they absolutely detest and they feel it's holding them back? What advice would you give these folks? I mean, you did it.
Yeah, man.
Like what can you share for them?
Here's what I'll tell you. Part of the strategy that's outlined in that book, we use overfunded, high cash value life insurance in alignment with real estate. And because I'm on that side of the business, in the life insurance business, it's been fascinating. I've had 4 clients die in the last 10 years. All 4 of them died prematurely. All 4 of them. Right now, everyone dies prematurely. No one is expecting to die when they die. But I'll never forget, man. I'll never forget. We had a client, and you know him. You know him. He was the CEO of a big company. And he came to me probably 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago now. I was speaking at some events. He's like, dude, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to serve missions. I want to travel. I want to be more present. He was a CEO of a company that was growing like a rocket ship and was pouring his entire life into it. And that's good. That's good. But he had all these dreams and ambitions. And so we built his vault. We built his game plan, mapped it all out for him. And over the next 3 years, man, he never took another step forward on his game plan. Now, I totally get it. He was building a business that was just going bonkers. It was going to the moon. And I'll never forget, after 3 years of funding his vault, where every year he'd put money, max fund, put money in his vault. And we built a big old vault for him, a huge vault. And we called it life insurance policies vaults. But I'll never forget, after 3 years, he called me up one day and he's like, hey, Ryan, tell me about that thing we did 4 years ago. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, tell me about the life insurance, the vault. I know we built it for cash value. I know I'm stuffing a bunch of cash in there. I was supposed to use it to buy a bunch of real estate. I never did it. But I just got diagnosed with a brain tumor.
Wow.
And he's mid-40s, wonderful, beautiful wife, wonderful kids, had a life of ambitions and dreams. And for a year, he fought it, ups and downs, and he died. And I've shared this in a presentation only because he has asked me to share it. He sent me a text message the day before he died. And his last message was how grateful he was for me. And he asked me to take care of his family with what the asset that he left behind was his life insurance. But he died with dreams left on the balance sheets, right? I wish I would have done these things. And it's been amazing because over the last 2 years now, I've been working with his wife, Carrie. And what she has done is she's learned some lessons from that. I mean, she is living such an intentional life right now. Every dream that Dave had, every dream they had, she's living, she's doing, she's accomplishing. And so my number one thing I would give to every single person in here is the one thing that we think we have abundant amount of, which is time. We all think we're superhuman. Our day's going to come, right? Our day's going to come, and we'll never know when it came. And my biggest fear as an individual is to arrive at the person I could have been, the life I could have lived, arrive at that and see it, but realize I played small. I let fear get in the way. I let busyness get in the way. I let all the things that just distract us in life get away from my number one priorities. And so I think the biggest thing you have to do, when people come in and they work with us, the way we measure success is financial freedom in 10 years or less. But on the back of all of our shirts, the shirts I gave you today, it's Rise Up, Live Free. And before we will ever work with anyone with a financial plan, we ask them 2 powerful questions, and we don't let them off the hook. What do you want, and why does it matter? And it's been fascinating. We've asked thousands of people those questions. And with very few exceptions, no one actually knows what they want. They have a vague idea someday, one day, right? They know all the things they don't want, but we will not let them off the hook. We spend an hour with them until they get absolutely clear on what they want and why it matters. Because until you know that, money has zero meaning in your life. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do. Will you have enough? I don't know. Enough to do what? Right? And so the number one recommendation I would give people is get clear right now. What is it that you want, and why does it matter? Because the third question is the question that unlocks everything in your life. Who do you have to become? If you can answer those three questions, and Jeff, you've been an epitome of that. You are someone that has become a new version, a better version of yourself over and over and over again. And I believe it's clear because you know what you want and you know why you want it. And that drives you to maximize your human life value.
Why this is beautiful. Why do you think so many people struggle with those questions? What's going on at the macro?
Yeah, man. I think there is some nefarious intent behind it. I mean, we live in a matrix type world where people want you distracted. They want you vague about what you want. They want you to piss your life away. They want you to just wait for one day. They want you to be dependent, not independent. And the more dependent you find yourself, the more you look for someone to come and save you, right? Whether that's the government, whether that's taxes, whether that's friends, family. The ultimate thing that a person can do is they can get clear on what they want, and they can exercise the one thing that no one can ever take from you. It's your freedom. Your freedom to choose the choices that you make, because my life right now, your life right now, everyone listening to this right now, their life right now is a simple result of the decisions that they made 5 years ago that have compounded to the life that you have today. And that's both good and bad, right? I mean, you can look at your life today and say, hey, I'm so grateful that I'm here. But you can also look at your life and say, there's so much more I have to do. Like, God gave me this one life. What am I doing with it? And then it's a matter of making new decisions, different decisions that lead to different outcomes, compounding those decisions to a different life.
Beautiful. Okay, so after writing this book, and I always say once you write a book and you put words on paper, those words are no longer yours. They're the world's words. What would you like for the world to learn from this work of art that you put together? I'm sure this is a lot of blood, a lot of sweat, a lot of tears, and a lot of years to put this thing together. So what's your desire? What's your personal mission statement as to what you want the world to learn and achieve and become through reading these words that are now theirs?
I love that. I'm going to say it because we're talking to your audience in a podcast. You know, we went back and forth quite a bit about the title of the book. And I use the word retire because I think it allows me to meet people where they're at. But my number one thing that I would want people to learn from that book is build a life that you don't want to ever retire from, right? And so that book is really all about rising up, taking control over your money. The first section of the book is helping you understand the problem that you're in, the matrix that you live in, and then not doing, like, once you understand the problem, you don't do the problem better, right? There is not a single person who achieved financial freedom in 10 years or less doing mutual funds and 401k contributions better than their neighbor. You do the exact opposite. And this is what I love about the world you play in. You know, I believe there's two parallel economies going on in our world simultaneously. There's the dependency economy, the Wall Street economy, where they're smart. I'm just going to give my money and hope it all works out to them. And then there's the ownership economy, where I own my money, I own my life, I own my choices, and I own my results. And that's what that book is about. Once you understand these two worlds, you can choose to stay in the dependency economy and be dependent, but that choice has consequences. And if you're unwilling to face those consequences, no one's a victim of it except you. So if you're willing to look at the outcome of that path and say, that's not what I want, then cross the bridge. Don't keep one foot on both sides. Cross the bridge and join the ownership economy. When you join the ownership economy, you actually tap back into what the American dream is. The American dream is alive and well for those who are willing to rise up and take ownership of their life, their choices, and their results.
Beautifully said. Okay, this has been amazing. We got off camera. How much time we got? What time is it?
40, so
It's 11.
11.
Oh,
Okay, so
time
we'll
is
end it.
11, yeah.
Okay, so I'll end it with one question. Okay, Ryan, you mentioned, time, and the way I view the world is time is one of those assets. It's our most valuable asset. But it's one of those assets you can't really log on to an account and see how much is there.
Yeah.
How much is left. I can go to my checking account, I can see what's there, my savings account, my investing account, etc. And I always say this, you got to live your life in a way in which you want to learn as if you're going to live forever, and you want to live and savor the moment as if you're going to die tomorrow.
Yeah.
So let's say that you're on the eve of, let's say you're in the situation that your client was in, your friend was in, where your days, they're numbered. and you're on that quote unquote deathbed, if you will. And I don't want this to sound overly dramatic, but I think it's important for us to know that one day we will expire. We will no longer be on this earth. And I think it's actually a beautiful thing.
It is.
I always say this, you don't want to regret growing older. It's a privilege denied to many. But let's say that you're on your quote unquote deathbed and you're talking to your wife, to your kids, to your close friends, extended family, last words of advice that you would want to part with.
Man, that's a good question, dude. I think the last words of advice I would give them is tap into their God-given potential. I really do believe, if we just want to get biblical on it, in the parable of the talents, God gave everyone a talent. And when the master came and took the talent from the one who was, an unwise, person with the talent and buried his talent, he didn't do it because he was punishing that individual. He did it because there were people that talent was meant to serve. And what I believe about talents, the world is full of problems, right? It's full of so many problems. The solution to those problems isn't more governments. It's people waking up to their talents. When I use my talents in the service of other people, two amazing things happen. Number one, my talents, although they're given to me, they were never given to me for me to have. They were given for me to exercise and develop and grow, but then to put those talents in the service of other people. When I do that, it A, solves a problem that exists in the world, and B, it gives me the greatest currency of all that money can never buy, and that's fulfillment. And I truly believe that the greatest joy that a human being can find is tapping into their God-given potential and going on the craziest journey of all. Asking three different questions, not what do I want, why does it matter, who do I have to become? It's who am I, why am I? Then you can ask how do I? And when you have an answer to those three questions, you understand your potential, you understand why you were given the talents that you were given, and then God calls you on the greatest adventure of all, which is chasing, magnifying, and developing your talents in the service of other people.
Love it. And then that's beautiful. So I just want to be able to open up the doors for our viewers that want to be able to engage more with you. How can they learn more from you? Obviously, This is one way. And by the way, where can we get this?
It's on Amazon right now. We just launched it a couple weeks ago. I'm so grateful that you brought me in here to talk about it. Go to Amazon right now. Go type in retireintenyears.com. That book right there, if you're ready to take more control over your life, your time, and your money, that's the playbook to do it. And then, like you said, Jeff, I put 10 years into that book. I brought my mentor, Bob Allen, to help me co-author it, who's probably one of the OGs in the game of real estate. Pick up that book. I think that'd be the best place for people to go.
Are you going to have it on Audible and other
I'm recording platforms? It right now. That's why my voice is a little bit cracking. I got through three-fourths of it yesterday, and my voice is about gone.
Okay, beautiful. And then how can we get a hold of you? You have a program we can join, or how does that work?
Yeah, the program that I do, I just help people build a game plan to achieve financial freedom. That's all it is. It's getting them clear and then giving them the resources and the access and the tools that they need to execute that game plan. Best way to find out about what we do there is just go to that book. There's a free companion course that comes with that book, free, and then you can see everything we do, how we do it, and the results that we get.
Beautiful. Is there going to be a 2.0?
Man, I tell you what, maybe. I would love to. I've got another couple books inside of me, but the fun thing about that book, I tried to write it 3 times, and I realized I wasn't ready yet. I hadn't actually myself achieved 10 years worth of playing that game when I first sat down to try to write that. So I've now done it. I've now helped clients do it. I've been doing this business for 10 years. I feel like I need to give another decade of my life to a mission before I write the next book.
Okay. Can I give you some inspiration?
I would love that.
You know my wife's an author, right?
I do know that, yeah.
You know how many books she has published?
How many?
38.
Oh my gosh, come on.
That's
Are you kidding me?
For you.
Holy cow. 38?
And counting.
Let's go. Dude, I love that. Okay, well, dude, you just changed my perspective.
Okay, with all that being said, this has been a phenomenal episode. So many takeaways, so many golden nuggets. Pick up the book. It's on Amazon right now. We will soon have an Audible version. Ryan is recording it right now in the studios. Reach out to him, reach out to his people. This is how you live life by design. I love the title. I love the premise. I love what it's all about. Retire in 10 years or less. Much love, brother. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Jeff.